Sona seems pretty good right now versus a lot of meta supports. Actually, I'll go more into specific matchups later, but first, Sona in general is pretty strong. She has pretty good trades early, not that much crowd control for skirmishes. Her ult's pretty good, but it has a really high cooldown early mid game. But the main thing is that her auras are really good, and she scales super well. She's probably the best user of sensor and wind speakers in the game because her W applies on the heal and the shield, so you can just keep them up pretty much permanently on everybody on your team. And Sensor got buffed, and yeah, that item is just fantastic on Sona. The stats and passive are basically perfect for her. So now though, going into specific builds, I think the two notable Sona players in NA are Stunt and Clown. And Stunt plays on so many different accounts, it's hard to e-stock him properly. But just briefly, it looks like he likes to get tier early, max W after 6, and get Crucible after Sensor. I'm mainly going to focus on Clown's build though, because it's what I've been copying. So yeah, let's start with his items. You go the blue item and ideally get the 500 gold upgrade on your first back and then complete Sightstone. Not the combined Sightstone though, just normal Sightstone. And then like pinks and trinket words are fine for vision before you finish Sightstone. And then instead of completing Sightstone, you go straight into Ardent Sensor. And so Sensor is great for Sona. Like I said earlier, and its build path feels amazing. Like it's really easy to build the components no matter what gold you have, and all the components are good for Sona. And then once you complete it, it's even better with the passive. And since you rush it so early, you get it in time for Sensor to make a difference. And it's also really nice if you get it at the same time as your AD carry gets Hurricane. Okay, so now you have Sensor and an uncombined blue Sidestone. At this point, you just want to start spamming your abilities, especially your W, which is a really high mana cost. So you want mana and CDR. And so now you complete Sightstone and build a tier. Now, tier is a really controversial item on Sona because on the one hand, it lets you spam your auras and is great for pure mana. But on the other hand, it doesn't do anything other than give mana. And I mean, it does give a ton of mana. Like when you have it, you're basically free to spam E to get around and spam W whenever you need to, which is really nice. But I think a trap people run into a lot with tier is they get it too early on Sona because the thing is, if you're getting tier, you should just get it earlier so you can stack it. But the problem with that is you're investing a lot of gold into non-combat stats and delaying your sensor. And I mean, it might be decent for laning if what you need is like pure sustain, so you can just spam your W. But I think you can get by without tier for mana, and the 750 gold cripples you for fights if you get it early. Um, but at this point in the game, like once you have your sensor, tier is fine, and all you want is mana to spam your aura so you can get your tier. Plus, with the upgraded Sightstone and a Fiendish Codex, you're at 35% cooldown reduction. And Sona scales really well with AP as well, so like those items are all super efficient for her. And now for the last two items, you get Locked into Athenes, and I have a sort of love-hate relationship with these. So like I was saying, you scale really well with ability power. Like it's not even a selfish thing to build ability power. The point is you scale like really well with it, so you support your team better with more AP. But the thing is, at this point, you basically win fights through your auras if you don't like get instantly deleted. But you are very vulnerable to getting bursted, and like since that's the only way you lose fights is getting assassinated, getting a locket can be kind of mandatory because it doesn't matter how much AP you have if the enemy fizz just 100 to zeros you. So yeah, like unfortunately, it doesn't give anything to help your abilities, but you just need Locket to not lose fights by not dying. And then the second item you should get that I don't like is Athenes. And the reason I don't like Athenes is the Harmony passive is a huge waste on Sona. The thing about Sona's W is that you're always going to heal yourself as well as the other person, so you don't need the HP regen. So that part of Athenes is just wasted, which is a shame because the other passive is super good. It converts damage into healing, which is just numerically better than the alternative. Which what I would like to do is build pure AP instead, but like the damage converting passive is just too good. And then the last thing about his items you might notice is that there are no boots. Instead, there's a dark seal. And so let's look at these items separately. First, not getting boots seems really weird, but it actually makes sense on Sona. So for one thing, late game, you pretty much always have your E up, so you already have plenty of movement speed. So instead of buying boots, you can just buy AP and CDR and mana, and not only does that make your other abilities stronger, it just gives you move speed from your E. And like especially since Sona scales so well with items, it just doesn't make sense to waste money on unnecessary movement speed. And also the Aether Wisp and Sensor gives you some move speed as well. So like in general, boots are bad. You don't want them in your final build. But I don't think they're always bad. Like if you're versus Blitz or something, you can just get boots to keep up with him and stay safe. Like the tier 1 boots are only 300 gold, so you can just get them and like even sell them later if you need to. And so then now Dark Seal. The reasoning for Dark Seal on Janna is that you scale really well with pure AP and rack up lots of assists for stacks and never lose the stacks by dying. And it's the same with Sona that you scale really well with AP and can stack the assists really easily. But it's easier to die on Sona than it is on Janna, so you just have to be careful um, with Dark Seal. But I think Dark Seal can be effective, especially if it's a convenient gold value. Also gives a little bit of mana, which is always nice for Sona, and it's actually gold efficient even without the passive. Alright, so now for a skill order. Now this is pretty interesting. You don't bother skilling your E in lane. I think the theory behind this is just that in lane you don't want to roam. You just want to get better trades, and so there's no reason to waste mana on the E. Having your other abilities is just better. And also this goes with not getting tier early. Like you do have to play around mana costs in lane, and putting points straight into Q and W just lets you get more from your mana and lets you trade better. And now I know not skilling E sounds weird, but honestly, it's something you have to try for yourself. So don't judge it until you've tried it. And anyways, you get E level 7 or 8 anyway, so by the point that you're like out of lane and need to rotate around and have mana for E, you already have a point in the spell. Plus, I mean, it's not like there's a special circumstance. Um, you know, there are times when you can get E before 6. It's just that by default, only skilling Q and W is better for trades in lane. And onto runes. I feel like a broken record here, but like Sona scales great with ability power, so you just get AP Quints and scaling AP Blues. The yellows are to make you less squishy. I don't know if there's a specific reason for the 2 health yellows, but you might as well just copy it. It doesn't make a huge difference. And then for the reds, I really don't like the idea of penetration because it doesn't help a lot of what your abilities do, but it's just better for lane. So winning lane is just really important early. So yeah, for masteries, obviously the main thing is wind speakers. Like I said earlier, it's great with Sona W, but there are a few more interesting trade-offs. He actually goes dangerous game, which is good for Sona, like for mana in team fights as well. But green fathers for harass or bandit for gold wouldn't be bad either. And he used to put 12 in ferocity instead of resolve, which is actually pretty good for your abilities. But the resolve tree is pretty good for Sona too. Um, Runic armor works well because of your W, which always goes on yourself as well. Like it breaks even with veteran scars at 625 HP of healing, which you get to pretty quick as Sona. And insight is really good because your flash is super important. Having flash up changes how you play a lot. Like for one thing, your ult is your only hard CC, so having ult and flash up lets you do a lot more to initiate fights. And also, you're very easy to kill without flash. And actually, about that, Sona is very easy to kill. And there are some games where you might find yourself just completely feeding. So I think this is how scary meta supports are for Sona, from Thresh, who basically farms you like a caster minion, to Janna, who you can actually abuse in lane. And like what I learned from spanning Sona is to just ban Thresh, but you might want to just pick Sona into easier matchups.